And welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. It's time for Opinion Court. Please use that hashtag Opinion Court. We'd love to track your conversation on Facebook and Twitter. You can get in touch with us on 22422. That's our SMS line. Reach out to us on Twitter at Citizen TV Kenya. And we go by the same name on Facebook. My handle is Ann Kiguta. That's Ann with an E. Let me reintroduce my panel to you. Next to me is the Kibra Member of Parliament, Ken Okoth. Thank you for coming. In the middle, Edward Kisiangani, our resident political analyst, and Member of Parliament Kimani Ichung'wah, who represents, of course, Jubilee Coalition. I thank you all for being here. Prof, even in crafting tonight's discussion, the question remains, is politics and development intertwined? One and the same thing. We're coming from the background of a week where we've seen some unfortunate moves, the burning down of, NYS infrastructure that had been set up for the people of Kibra based on political reasons. And we've also seen an interesting play with the, state awarding about 1 billion shillings for, restructuring of Mumias Sugar and settling other debts. And all of this has been attributed to politics. Is politics and development one and the same thing?
I think, Anne, to tell you the truth, there is a lot of ignorance which has infected almost everybody around our country, and specifically the leadership of this country, because they delve in issues they have very little knowledge about. When you talk about politics, you are talking about all the activities that take place under polity. There is even the politics of the home, where you could be called, the fathers could be called Igwe, and you don't know you are being called Igwe. Then you could have a son being referred to as Obama, but he doesn't know, probably it's very rough. There are so many things that happen. Even at church level, there is politics taking place there. The way in which people conceive certain issues and discuss them, the way they ventilate over certain issues and then make certain conclusions. So therefore, there is totally no difference. These two are twins, and anybody who has, like my colleagues here who have had good education, know that when you deal with political economy, and the economy is talking about development, you are talking about the difference between the optimal use of resources, which is the economic part, which is the development part, and the realistic ones. For example, the president could go like he did one time. He went to Budalangi, and a bridge, was missing on a river, and people though had capsized and killed people. So what the president does is that now this bridge must be built immediately. It has not been budgeted for, but you are told as a man in charge of development at the headquarters that you must produce money for that tomorrow. So it means environment you can't quarrel. So politics is the way we addressed realistic things like the ones of Mumias, and against the optimal, which means the budgeted one by development, experts. So therefore, these things move together. Now, what is happening in this country is, whether you are talking about Kibera or you are talking about Mumias or anywhere else, is actually the politics of development, because that is one branch of politics. It is politics of development, it's the politics of family, politics of the church, politics of the media. They are all taking place. So to separate the two, you must be a scientist from Mars.
Kimani, are you that scientist?
Let me just say, from what Professor says, you can all sum it up in what the former president, Daniel Arap Moi, Mzee Moi, said. Siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya. Siasa mzuri, maisha mzuri. And therefore, the two are actually intertwined, and it all depends on what you're doing with your politics to drive development, or whether your politics is indeed interfering with the development agenda you have. But I take great exception to what Professor Kisiangani says of the leadership in this country, because I know past leadership has actually used politics to stifle development. But we are seeing a leadership in this country today that is using political leaders to drive development. I would take great exception from what Kisiangani says of Mumias. Mumias is not about 1 billion shillings being given to the people of Mumias or Kakamega County for the sake of politics. It's about reviving an industry, and it's just about Mumias. It's about Webuye paper mills in his own county. It's about the lives of people, because this is an administration that promised to transform Kenya and change the lives of people. And we are only looking at an administration that recognizes that the people of Mumias have long suffered because of the collapse of that Mumias Sugar Company. Same with the Webuye paper mills. When you come to Kibera, is all a totally different scenario, and I think that sums it all up. And I want to remind you what Mutahi Ngunyi wrote, tweeted this week about Raila Odinga, who was a member of parliament for Kibra, where my colleague here is representing now for over 20 years.
What did he say?
That Raila Odinga is a lord of poverty, and he thrives on the political blood of the poor. And I was just chatting with my friend Ken Okothia and telling him that indeed he has got a huge challenge ahead of him to change the mindset of the people of Kibra. And I know, and I'm sure he also appreciates, that tens of thousands of the people in Kibra do appreciate the good work that the Jubilee government is doing for them. It's probably a handful of misguided people, those who are asking Kenyans to seek forgiveness in the name of Raila, Baba, and I don't know what. But the millions and tens of thousands of the people of Kibra who believe in one supreme God and not a God in Kibra in the name of a politician, know that indeed what the Jubilee government is doing through NYS is changing the lives of the people of Kibra.
Let me bring in Ken, the member of parliament for Kibra.
Direction.
Perhaps this question should redirect our conversation. Would you say that the projects that were being done in Kibra under the NYS, as some in your coalition have alleged, were political, one in that were aimed specifically at tarnishing the reputation of the former Prime Minister, who was, I think, held that position for more than 2 decades?
20 years.
First of all, let me say a couple of things. The first thing is that despite the allegations that Kibra was on fire, I think the media in Kenya has to be very responsible. We saw for about 24 hours to 36 hours, the media was saying Kibra is on fire. They would have you believe we were back in January 2008, the post-election violence. In fact, that was farthest from the truth. One toilet block in Kibra that was incomplete was attacked. That was a shameful thing that we condemn. The NYS has constructed 90 toilets in Kibra. It shows you the people of Kibra are smart enough to know that these toilets that have been constructed belong to us. The government of Jubilee that has done them, it's doing its duty, is not doing us a favor. They're using our taxes. So we are very smart people. There is not a single clinic that was burnt. I was the first lady when I welcomed her to officially open the Beyond Zero clinics in Kibra. We treat our children there. We take our mothers there. We will never ban our clinics. Those clinics belong to us. They don't belong to Anne Waiguru. They don't belong to Uhuru Kenyatta. They don't belong to Raila Odinga. They belong to Kenyan citizens who pay taxes in Kibra. So I think when people also want to say that, you know, Raila Odinga is a lord of poverty, he has never done anything good for anybody. Raila Odinga has done so much for this country, and anyone is entitled to their opinion, but I reject that. I think Raila has done so much for this country. Nobody is perfect, but we stand by him because we know where he stands with us in the fight for justice, economic equality, political freedom. And one person by himself can't achieve everything, but Raila has done a lot that Ichung'wah and I, we can learn from him and try to improve.
Fair enough, but to my question specifically is, do you believe, as it has been quoted in sections of the press, actually, when journalists interviewed a section of residents of Kibera, that they felt that some of these projects were not done because, as you've said, you know, government owes, you know, the people that sort of infrastructure, but was done specifically with the aim of making one Raila Odinga look bad in his quote-unquote backyard. Is that a sentiment you share? Would you say there was politics in it or not? Where do you sit on that matter?
I think the government of Jubilee doing its job and doing justice for the people of Kibera in no way makes Raila look bad. Let us talk about housing, for instance. Nobody wants forever to live in a house made of mud and with no running water, with no safe electricity connection. So if you want to do justice for the people of Kibera, do it not because you want to show up Raila Odinga. Right now in Kibera constituency, we have 900 apartments that were initiated by Prime Minister Raila Odinga and President Kibaki in the last government. These houses are ready for moving. For the last 8 months, these houses have not been occupied. What is it that stopped the Cabinet Secretary for Housing, Ngilu, from letting the people of Kibera move in? We have the list of the people who are moved from that area of the slum. The houses have been built, they're there, and nobody has been allowed to move into them. So I ask CS Matiang'i, if you really want to make Uhuru Kenyatta look good,
make sure that in the next 2 months, you move Kibra people and have Uhuru Kenyatta help them move into those apartments. That will make Uhuru Kenyatta
and the
look
reason
good.
that hasn't
Those are the
happened
things,
is,
yes. You know.
and
But that
beg your
project was
pardon,
started by Kibaki and Raila.
Fair enough.
Yes.
And I can see that. I'm just asking, the reason why you think they haven't moved in yet has been why? Because
I think there was corruption.
Because
And
of
Angilu,
corruption, okay.
yes. And Angilu, she attempted. You know, we people of Kibra are very smart. And I keep repeating this. Do not take us for fools. Ngilu tried to make sure that the people of Kibra would sign off on papers for a long-term rent to own arrangement of these government houses that were built for them with the World Bank, and that we are paying back already as a country to the World Bank those loans, that 2 or 3 families would move into an apartment. And, Professor, would you accept to move into a house to rent to own shared with another family, one apartment? How would you own that house after 15 or 20 years? That's what Ngilu tried. We pushed back on it. And so those houses haven't been done. But Matiang'i has a list. If he wants in good faith, and I'm ready to host the president even tomorrow, let us hand over those houses to the genuine people of Kibra. Let us say, President Kibaki, Prime Minister Raila, you started a great project. Let us continue that quality upgrading project. It can be done.
You know, Anne, where I think that we are losing the discussion is that you have 2 members of parliament, each one of them defending their turf. And there is, in fact, an overzealous defense of Raila Odinga from Mheshimiwa Okoth from Kibera. And why he's doing that, you understand. One time I told you, this is the disease that we have, that we need a campaign called Beyond the Odinga campaign, which is not Beyond Zero. Because look, if he spoke otherwise, this is the politics he's playing. He has to talk with this hypocrisy in order to survive in the election.
Where's the hypocrisy?
The hypocrisy is that he can never entertain anybody in a public show like this one to say anything against Raila Odinga, because he's also a victim of that enslavement. But what I would
just call me a sycophant, a Raila sycophant. Are you telling the whole nation Ken Okoth is a Raila sycophant?
I mean, you
come out and say it.
You have diverted the discussion to that one of campaigning and defending an individual.
What is a Raila sycophant?
Prof, maybe to help you, I think the question that Anne put to Mheshimiwa Ken Okoth was simple.
Yes.
Are these projects being done in Kibera? Do you believe that they're being done specifically to steer a political agenda? And it's a simple question of yes or no. I want to say this. Let me say this. Let me say this. Nobody intends to monopolize your thinking, Mheshimiwa. I wanted to say that if I were to answer that question, I would say, one, these projects are not just in Kibera. Kiandutu slums in Thika, which is in Kiambu County, is a beneficiary of the same project in Kibera. The other slums in Kisumu, and Kisumu also wasn't represented by Raila Odinga. So don't belittle this debate to be a debate about Raila Odinga.
Yeah,
but we must divorce our bad politics with matters to do with development. My own constituency, I have been to the Ministry of Devolution and with our county commissioner, seeking for funds to upgrade a slum called Kiamburi in Kikuyu. And therefore, it has got nothing to do with politics. Is a government and a Jubilee administration that is cognizant of the fact that they were elected by Kenyans to serve all Kenyans without favor, without looking at whether the people of Kibra voted for Jubilee or not. And that is a poverty of ideas that your party leader lacks. But your party leader is looking at a missed opportunity. A missed opportunity that when he had an opportunity to change the lives of the people of Kibra over 20 years as Member of Parliament, he squandered that. He had CDF, the CDF kitty to do that. I have seen your work, Mheshimiwa, with the CDF. There's a particular high school, I can't remember with the Maasai name, that I have been seen on Facebook. And I do appreciate that you are a young Member of Parliament who is doing things that were not done over 20 years. Raila Odinga today should also sit back and appreciate that Uhuru Kenyatta and his government are doing things that he squandered an opportunity under the Kazi kwa Vijana initiative. Instead of using Kazi kwa Vijana to change the lives of the people, he got small boys in Kibera, a few of them, took them to Nairobi Dam to clean up Nairobi Dam, and the money went to Azeh. And I think that is the opportunity Raila has realized.
You see, I agree with you to the extent that politics is about a cost-benefit analysis. You look at your opponent and say, he missed this opportunity, I take this opportunity. Let me tell you, Uhuru wants to win the 2017 election. And if he gets a chance to capitalize on missed opportunities of political opponents, he will do it. But I think the most important thing that we need to look at is this. That with regard to Kibera and of course the hulabalo about the projects there, should people convert, moving? Anne Waiguru seems to have supporters who wear uniform and go to the streets. Then you have others claiming they are supporters of Raila Odinga, also countering that. Is that the direction that this country should take? One of the things that I expected done is for Raila Odinga himself to come out and say, I do not want young men to go out on the streets to cause violence in my name. And I also expected that Anne Waiguru would also say, I want you to go, I don't want you to go out. I am a cabinet secretary. I'm not involved in these kind of things. I have just done my work, but I don't expect young men to go out to make noise in my name.
So you
this has not happened.
Prof.
And that is where
so you feel she's politicized this as well?
She has also politicized this, and she should check that. And on the other hand, the supporters of Raila Odinga, plus himself, because he has called a press conference again to talk about the cabinet secretary. Let me tell you this. We know very well that cabinet secretaries, by the constitution, are not supposed to issue political statements. So they do not have anybody to defend them. They can't go to parliament to defend themselves.
Professor,
now, as a leader, just wait. As a leader of opposition who is not in parliament, his continuous attack of the cabinet secretary is also not.
He's envious of Anne Waiguru. She's doing what he failed to do.
Let's put this in context. The presses that the former Prime Minister has called have been specifically on the question of alleged corruption at the NYS, and he's been calling for an independent probe on the same.
And I have an idea. This is why I'm talking about the attack. What I expect him to do, because he's a very senior citizen in this country. He has already quoted figures about money getting lost. I'm sure he has evidence. So this evidence is supposed to be handed over to the relevant authorities. One of them is the director of CID. Another one is the anti-corruption. So that this, in fact, he can even publish it in the media. So we want to see this information. Other than, people will start accusing each other right and left, and you're not seeing anything.
Okay.
So this is my position.
Fair enough. I want to bring
I'm
you
not
back
defending
into,
anybody.
Fair enough. I want to bring Ken back into the conversation. And when these projects were launched in Kibra, I mean, the famous footage of yourself dancing with the president and dancing with the CS. And I wonder, has this brewed any political problems for you in your party? There are, of course, suggestions that the former Prime Minister's daughter, Rosemary Odinga, could be, eyeing your seat come the next general election. Do you think the two are related?
Say.
I'm waiting for the camera.
Okay, all eyes on you now.
See, someone said, good leaders think about legacy and the next generation. I'm in parliament and in public life to serve the people of Kibra, to make a difference. Might I remind you, I was born and raised in Kibra. So I make no apologies about my roots and making a difference to the people of Kibra, who I owe my allegiance to. And I think that's very important. I'm a loyal member of ODM, and I think it's very rude for anyone to start campaigning too early. It's 2017 is coming.
Do you feel Rosemary Odinga is campaigning already?
I actually welcome anyone to come campaign, Come, baby, come, as Miguna said. Come, baby, come. Bring it on. But all I'm saying, it's not fair to the people to be distracted all the time with too much politics. I think Rosemary Odinga is a fantastic person. She can come in and help with voter registration. We need our people registered with IDs. There's a lot of things we can collaborate in. She cares about education. We can work on together. So I'm not going to get in a war about who's what candidate. The more candidates in the race, the better. As long as I can prove my track record of fidelity to my people, I know I will get my job. So I don't run my leadership around winning the next election. If I want to have a election. Just allow me, Prof. Yes. This is my moment. I let you speak on all these things. You guys all like talking about the Honorable Raila Odinga. Gazeti ni ya kuuza nyama, and you can't sell newspapers in Kenya without mentioning Raila. So even this show is selling based on that. But no, it is true.
I am deliberately avoiding the need to respond to that.
I'm quoting His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. Gazeti ni ya kuuza nyama na kufunga nyama. So all I would say therefore is everyone has a democratic right to vie. I am not a non-democrat. I welcome any candidate from any party. I won this seat. You know, I wish I was Moses Kuria in Gatundu. That will never happen in Kibra.